It has been several years since the fall of the Berlin Wall, which many saw as the end of socialism. In the years since, the world has collectively plunged headlong into a neoliberal dystopia, with the political paradigm spiraling further and further right as time goes on. Wealth has become more concentrated, state power has expanded, and the far right has been on the rise. To anyone who cares about equality and liberty, the situation can seem pretty dire. However, there have been signs of hope. Rumblings from below, evidence that there are still people who know what's up and aren't going to go quietly. There were the 1999 World Trade Organization protests in Seattle. There was Occupy Wall Street. There was Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. And today we have the vigorous protests against the Trump administration, and clashes between the far right and radical left making headlines. With the explosion of the social justice movement, it seems that we are entering a new social revolution. And in a recent survey, young Americans were found to view socialism more favorably than capitalism. It would appear that the left is once again a force to be reckoned with. That being said, if we aren't careful, the left will fall over the same stumbling blocks that have held it back in the past. This is no trivial matter. Defeat means hell on earth for many people, and perhaps extinction. This is the first in a series of videos, in which I will discuss major flaws in leftism as it exists today, and outline some ways to fix these problems. One of the major problems with leftism today is the focus on organization. As William Gillis would put it, organizations are a terrible way to get shit done, for a number of reasons. For one thing, collective decision-making is terribly inefficient. Individual participants have a lot of input to give, since each person has complex preferences and a unique perspective on a given situation. However, when forced to sum up their take on a given situation, they have to focus on the things that they fear will go unsaid, since everyone has to get a say in the process. The best resolution of a problem can be approximated, but odds are preferences and perspectives will be trampled in the name of collective decision-making. The result is an organization that either doesn't function, or one that gravitates toward the dangerously simple solutions to complex problems. Organizations are also terrible at forming large groups of people who work in harmony. While it is possible to find compromise over small disagreements, the tension left by these small compromises builds up and becomes tectonic when a larger disagreement rears its head. At the end of the day, the energy used to make compromises within an organization is energy that could have been spent in wider engagement. As Gillis puts it, when it comes to discussion, rather than wasting our time building different platforms, we should be working to create better protocols. Cultural norms predicated on engagement, open-mindedness, and vigilance. Another problem with organizations is the fact that they stoke formal and informal power dynamics. Even structures built into organizations to counteract imbalances in representation or voice ultimately just shift informal power dynamics around and open new opportunities for influence, promoting power games in different forms. Centralized access to resources creates further incentive, and even in the absence of pre-existing informal power dynamics, organizations are naturally high-value real estate for the power-hungry. Jason McQuinn describes the left's organizational tendency as a transmission belt structure, with an explicit division between leaders and led, along with provisions to discipline rank-and-file members while shielding leaders from responsibility to those being led. This kind of structure has a number of inherent problems. Only some facets of the social struggle are included in organizations, with others being ignored, leading to compartmentalization of the struggle. Those most involved in the organization end up increasingly specialized roles within the organization, leading to a division between leaders and led, and the formation of a hierarchy. The organization becomes the focus of strategy, rather than the people actually involved, with the leader often emerging who ends up embodying and controlling the organization. And when the organization becomes the primary concern, with individuals assigned roles to play, authority inevitably emerges. Instead of forming rigid organizations, the left should embrace stigmergy. Stigmergy is networking without central coordination, hierarchy, or an administrative mechanism. Each actor's behavior is spontaneous and self-directed, against the backdrop of a common social medium. This is the kind of networking used by the Linux developer community, by resistance movements like the Zapatista Global Support Network of the 90s, and the post-Seattle anti-globalization movement. More on the left's tactics in my next video on how to fix the left. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and if you like what you've seen, subscribe and tune in next week for more content from an individualist anarchist perspective.